A fourth UCLA starter has entered the NBA draft. A starting offensive lineman for USC has allegedly entered the transfer portal, and what constitutes the Lakers' best lineup, and can that lineup compete with Memphis? Good morning, I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. It is April 14th, 2023. I don't have any energy at all. I came home. My wife is like, you know what? I don't know if I would have married you if you looked like that on our wedding day. And I don't blame her for thinking that way. I would hate to feel that way and just have it be my little secret. But anyway, let's talk LA sports. If you like the content that we put out, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comments. Feel free to tell me how lousy I look. I totally get it. Now, before we go through the news and notes, we're going to take a look at the scoreboard. Adrian Kempe with the hat trick. The Kings end the regular season with a 5-3 victory over Anaheim. Bring on Edmonton. Bring it on. A first-round rematch of last year's Stanley Cup playoffs. That one between the Kings and the Oilers went to 7 games. It was terrific. The Oilers and Kings get down again starting on Monday. Meanwhile, today, the Cubs are in town to take on the Dodgers at 7 o'clock. Noah Syndergaard is 0-1 with a 6.30 ERA. He's going to face off with starting pitcher and action movie tough guy Justin Steele of the Cubs. 0-1, 0.75 ERA. And then there was one. Bona, the Highlander, the last Jedi, the 40-year-old virgin, whatever you want to call him. He is the last starter from UCLA's lineup from last year's team. We know this because yesterday, Amari Bailey became the 4th UCLA basketball starter to declare for the NBA draft. He said so via an Instagram post, which is, of course, the now official way of telling everybody, screw you, in the sports world. And so the press, to confirm it, they went to his mom. His mom. Great choice. Side note, why is the press always having to be going to the parents? Amari, I've never met you. You're now a grown-ass man making grown-ass man decisions about your life. So be a grown-ass man and speak for yourself. By the way, as a side note, please say hello to Cockblocker the cat, making her long-awaited return to faithful Angelino sports. Now, anyway, here's the thing. His mom, instead of him, said there will be no last-minute changing of his mind and returning to school. It is NBA or bust. So he's one and done. Fine. But his one, honestly, didn't impress me that much. You have people who are saying that maybe he is the 40th best player in the draft pool. That would put him early to mid-second round, maybe late first round if he's lucky. And I'm not going to front. I'm not one of those guys who puts the college life in these grandiose romantic terms. Oh, you, sir, you need that degree, while the teenage white girl turns pro as a tennis player, right? If you need to make that money, go make that money. My problem is you simply didn't dominate at UCLA. You didn't. And I would wager it's because, A, you were getting the ball from an experienced veteran guard in Tiger Campbell, and B, more defenders were concerned about Jaime Jaquez Jr. at UCLA. So you get all these open looks, and you still only average about 11 points per game. That doesn't tell me you're a surefire professional. That's my problem. That is my problem. So he is shifty. He did sink almost half of his shots, but if you're late first round at best in the NBA draft, does it signal to me that you're a future all-star? No. Meanwhile, the Bruins did add a player from France, a gentleman whose name I'll never be able to pronounce in a million years, Hélène Fibleul. And I know I've got it wrong. I expect a sucker punch if I ever meet the guy. He's a 6'6" wing. He's actually pretty legit. He was considering, if he didn't go to UCLA, to go to the NBA G League and try and impress the NBA from there. The second transfer portal window opens tomorrow. 24/7 Sports got the ball rolling by mentioning positions that the USC football team will need to look at. Now, they chose defensive line as the biggest need. And sure, the Trojans added a couple of defensive linemen that they already like, but when you consider how the Trojans got pushed around toward the end of the year by Utah, to an extent by UCLA, and most definitely by Tulane, yeah, depth is probably going to be an issue. But here's an issue that popped up that, in my arrogant little opinion, is even more important. Left tackle Cortland Ford has allegedly left the team and intends to enter the transfer portal. Now, to be clear, the Scribes didn't learn this from Ford. The Scribes didn't even learn this from Ford's mom. No, they learned it from a teammate. So the story might not be legit. However, if it is legit, it is a problem. Left tackle protecting Caleb Williams' blind side. Kind of a deal, wouldn't you say? And Ford was a one-time starter. Now, it's still a good offensive line for USC. They might be able to find a solution in-house. But having said that, it's still left tackle. Meanwhile, other areas of supposed need are likely pass rushing end and safety. The Trojans have been trying to figure a solution to this for a while. They shifted transfer defensive lineman Anthony Lucas to the edge. As for safety, I'm not necessarily sure. They seem pretty set with Kalen Bullock, Bryson Shaw, and Max Williams. And I would also add that linebacker appears to be not necessarily set in terms of the rotation, but that whole competition thing that Lincoln Riley had been harping over the last few weeks, it seems to be bringing out a new edge, shall we say, in the USC linebacking core. For example, freshman Tackett Curtis is described as a playmaker who does not have many bad days, and we will probably see a lot of them during the season. That's from the coaching staff. Having said that, that doesn't mean he's starting. He has to pass by either Eric Gentry or Shane Lee. That is not an easy ask for a freshman. So you put all of this together, and what does it mean? Well, Lincoln Riley basically admitted the obvious. He's had to change recruiting strategies for when USC and UCLA transfer over to the Big Ten next year. The idea that they're going to need different types of players to compete with the differing matchups that conference will provide. West Coast football is a lot about spread offenses, for Pete's sake. They have some of that in the Big Ten, but not nearly as much. Now, unfortunately, Riley didn't get into specifics. Like, for example, did the need for tight end increase because of this impending shift? Does that mean meaning that's why 300-pound defensive linemen become all the more important? Didn't get specific. CBSSports.com posted a column today ranking the NBA Western Conference playoff teams by their 5 best players. And I must tell you, Sam Quinn, you are one lazy bastard. That was a straight up. He's going, we're going to rank all the Western Conference teams, and then he specifically says we are not going to rank 3 of them. One of those teams, by the way, was the Clippers, because he didn't want to start speculating about how the Clippers are going to look if they don't have Paul George. Well, tough doo-doo, pal. Your headline said you were going to rank them all. This is the job that you get paid to do. You don't simply get to pick and choose which teams you want to review if you're going to say we're reviewing all of the playoff teams. So no, at least every single day I'm looking for Clippers news. This clown didn't even try, Sam Quinn. You know how many thousands of people who are out there hungry as hell trying to get a regular journalism job, and Sam Quinn is half-assing his way? Anyway, former Scribe, what do you expect? I see the problems in my industry. Let's talk about the Lakers, because that turned out to be the team he did include. He ranked 6 teams and put the Lakers at number 6. Now, the best 5 on the Lakers is somewhat obvious. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell. And he fills out that top 5 with Austin Reeves and Jared Vanderbilt. So then he continues with the obvious, that James, Davis, and Reeves are reliable two-way players. Reliable two-way players. And that best starting five is now balanced out by adding one elite offensive player in D'Angelo Russell with a potentially elite defensive player in Vanderbilt. The reason that he ranked them so low, by the way, is because the Lakers looked like garbage in the play-in game against Minnesota. That Darvin Ham was forced to sub in Dennis Schroeder for Russell and Rui Hachimura for Vanderbilt. Okay, maybe that is a ding, but whatever, because now we're looking at Memphis. How does that lineup fare against the Grizzlies, the number 2 seed in the Western Conference? I want to give you a reason for optimism for the potential first round upset. Memphis is physical. Memphis is gritty. Memphis at times plays a little cheap. The Lakers are not going to mind because the Lakers excel at getting to the free throw line. In other words, the Memphis Grizzlies might be playing right into the Lakers' hands by giving them a ton of free points. A little bit of Friday morning optimism for you. I realize there's an entire baseball season to be played, but a major league executive is predicting that there will be a competition between the Dodgers and Mets to land the Angels' wunderkind Shohei Ohtani in the offseason. The issue that the Mets will have, though, is that when Ohtani was rumored to first come to the United States a few years ago, his people told the Yankees Ohtani didn't envision himself playing in New York. Now, of course, his people are saying differently now, but I guess that's because they're doing what they can to ignite a bidding war. Just a thought. They say the backup quarterback is the most popular player amongst the fans. Well, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is turning out to be very popular with NFL scouting departments, although not necessarily to be considered as a starter. We know that he spoke with the Cincinnati Bengals. He also has conversations scheduled with the Eagles and Raiders. So the former UCLA quarterback, it seems like he's going to get himself a professional gig. Good for him. I ranted about the Clippers a moment ago, or the lack of coverage thereof. I do have one note from the Clippers, and I'm not much of a cry over spilled milk kind of guy, but Doc Rivers had a take on why the Lob City Clippers couldn't win in the playoffs. Now, you recall Lob City. You had an in his prime Chris Paul lobbing up passes to an in his prime Blake Griffin and an in his prime DeAndre Jordan. Quote, that team was never going to win when you look back at it, said Rivers. We just didn't get along well enough as a group, and you can't win without cooperation, unquote. Now, that's vague. Rivers could have benefited us all by going into specifics. JJ Redick, a former Clipper who currently works with ESPN's Legion of Hot Take Goofballs, tweeted that Rivers was dreaming. Not exactly the strongest reply, pal. Not exactly the strongest reply. Either one of you, feel free to go into detail. Let's learn something. This was kind of inevitable. If you saw last year's MLS Cup final, LAFC, Philadelphia Union, they went tooth and nail into overtime. It was 120 minutes of passionate, physical, grueling soccer, twists and turns. You hate to use the word war to describe games like that because war, well, let's be real. I think the Ukrainians would rather be playing soccer with the Russians right now. But anyway, the Union and LAFC will meet again in CONCACAF Champions League in the semifinal round in 2 games. The first leg will take place back east between April 25th and 27th. Count me in. Absolutely want to watch that. Peter Schrager of the NFL Network told the Pat McAfee Show that the Rams were willing to let Sean McVay take an entire year off if he needed it to decide if he was going to still coach. Quote, he was calling everybody and was trying to get everyone's thoughts. At the end of the day, I don't think he was going to do that to Matthew Stafford. I don't think he was going to do that to Cooper Kupp, and he didn't need the full year anyway, unquote. Okay, cool. We know he's back. Let's move on. A couple of days ago, I mentioned who the LA Sparks took in the NBA draft. Let's be real. I don't watch the WNBA. So I couldn't tell you how those draft picks actually graded out. but we have an idea now. ESPN gave the team a B-, which honestly, B- is a nice way of saying you suck. Because that was the 7th lowest grade in a 10-team league. ESPN said the top pick was used on Zia Cook simply because she was the best player available, but the Sparks really needed a wing player, and they didn't get one. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Sorry, too many days in Portland. Let me know what you think in the comments thread. Let me know what you think about UCLA basketball now without 4 starters from last year. Let me know what you think USC needs in the transfer portal. And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day. Thank you for watching. I'm James, sounding a lot more like Bobby Brady every day. Anyway, Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.